how do we get acne or pimples?
Okay, it's a beautiful exercise in exposome science, right? So about a good 70%, 60 to 70%, or a little more than that, is genetically inherited, which means that children with parents, one or two parents, or one or both parents having acne will have a chance of maybe 70% chance of having acne themselves or pimples themselves. But this is when the data was when we were seeing a lot of teenagers being brought in with acne, right? That used to be the original case back then. But now what we see is an explosion of people with having adult acne.
Correct.
For men, it could be whey protein causing acne. For women, it could be the number of products that we use. And for both, it could be stress, lack of sleep, lifestyle factors. And there's access to a lot of food any time of the day, over and over, giving you a good bit of insulin resistance. So it's changed from being primarily genetic, where the genome would have been everything, to becoming an exposome factor, where so much is coming in from the external aspect.
Okay.
And this has happened. I'm so excited because this has happened in my lifetime.
Okay.
In real life, I've been able to see the shift.
Okay.
And now we see more people complaining of acne from stuff they used or food they have. We were never lactose intolerant, or at least the news about lactose intolerance was not commonplace,
Correct.
right? But now we know that we can have problems with milk. We know that we can have problems with bread.
Gluten,
which
yeah.
used to be like, what do you have to school? What will you take on travel to the train?
Correct.
Bread at the port.
Correct.
That's very common.
Correct.
But now we are intolerant. As a whole lot of things that have changed because our lifestyle, the way we live, and we are seeing real-time evolutions, what was happening in generations. We're seeing accelerated evolutions either at the mental, physical level. Now,
Okay.
it's become all so fast.
Okay.
So with pimples, we are also seeing that the number of factors that can contribute to acne, because we are trying the 10-step Korean routine, which is BS according to me. And then there is also the thought process around, applying or something as basic as applying a lip tint, which is meant for the lips which do not have the same kind of oil glands as the skin does, to the cheeks and people breaking out.
Oh, yeah.
It's very unique to that use case,
Okay.
right? So what used to be the largest thing that we actually learned about in terms of genes and all of that, it's completely come into lifestyle. That's a wonderful example in exposome science. Now, when we want to fix somebody, we of course take the history of how did you start out, but we also try and listen to the many
Other
factors,
factors.
and then try to say like, here is what you may need to let go of to reduce acne, versus here are the things that you need to do more.
Okay.
Sometimes you just slow down,
Okay.
get rid of these things, see if the acne goes up, and then that's a good thing.
And what is the difference between a filler and a Botox?
Okay. So botulinum is a muscle relaxant. So it's basically, I say muscle relaxant in the simplest of ways. It's a toxin. It belongs to a group of chemicals that are capable of paralyzing the muscles.
Okay.
Okay, so that's it. That's why it's called a toxin.
So the purpose of it was something else. Okay.
So it was discovered by an ophthalmologist dermatologist couple.
Okay.
The ophthalmologist wife was injecting it for asymmetrical muscle activity.
Okay.
And then when they noticed it erased forehead lines, they took it up into Botox cosmetic. Before that, Botox was used for neurological conditions.
Okay.
They even use it for children with spasticity.
Okay.
So it is used in multiple indications.
Okay.
It is used for people who have tics. I'm just talking about in a very, very simplified way. There are multiple uses it was put to before it became a cosmetic thing.
Okay.
Now, it is used when you talk about muscles causing wrinkles and Botox being used to relax those muscles. Then it makes sense that as we grow older, we will, because of overuse of certain muscles of facial expression, we will have developed lines which come into action when the muscles work. And this can be used to relax the muscles.
Okay. It basically relaxes the muscles. Okay.
Because the wrinkling happens from aging, it is an anti-aging treatment.
Okay. Got it.
Okay? Wrinkling happens from aging. Botox relaxes wrinkles. Therefore, Botox is an anti-aging
Anti-age.
cream.
Okay.
Botox is the trade name for the botulinum toxin itself. Multiple other brands exist, but most of us are very conversant with this brand.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, coming to fillers, fillers are usually made of hyaluronic acid. They can be made of multiple other agents. The hyaluronic acid that is used in a filler is much more stable and durable than the hyaluronic acid we use in our creams.
Okay.
Similar type, but there is a lot of structural modifications that are done to make sure that the filling stays in place.
For how many months?
So the original instruction used to be that we'll have to fill once every 6 months to 1.5 years.
Okay.
But there are people that I have used fillers in which last for about, I have filled them when they were 20s, late 20s, and I haven't touched them in their 30s.
It still
Because,
stays?
no, we age differently.
Oh,
It may
okay.
no longer become relevant.
Okay. Okay.
Because
Got
the
it.
face changes differently. Because we age with something that makes the face look fuller, naturally.
Okay. Interesting. So now, what are the side effects of fillers or Botox?
So if you look at fillers, there are a fair bit of side effects, which basically is because it's because of the way that the procedure is done. But in the hands of experienced injectors, you would be reasonably safe. But when it comes to botulinum or Botox, there are no long-term side effects.
Okay.
People talk about long-term consequences, neurological consequences and stuff, but the kind of in literature that is there in view of the safety, I think it's probably not a very real or practical side effect, which can only be attributable to the toxin itself. There may be a few and far between case reports which talk about unusual circumstances, but I don't think it applies to the general practice of botulinum itself. But when it comes to fillers, we hear about it quite often. That, of course, outside of the common bruising, which is normal for anything. I mean, those are not even, I wouldn't call them side effects. It translates into two parts where you can have some level of inflammation in some individuals who are predisposed to it. So then we need to pick the person and the procedure and the product very correctly. Then there's a thing that, unfortunately, among younger dermatologists, it's considered glamorous to be doing fillers and Botox because it changes people's shapes and stuff.
Okay.
Then the youngest ones really go in without a lot of experience, and that's a concern for us. All of our regulatory bodies are constantly working to make people more experienced. So then there's a lot of attention that's being given to education around this. Then comes the group of people who will say that fillers did not work for them because they did not know what they were expecting from it. One of the reasons I really don't go or did not choose to go deep into filler practice is primarily because, like you said, if people did not know what they can achieve with fillers for their particular face, and if they did not know what their face needs, they're going to be very unhappy about fillers. That is by and far the largest group.
Oh, okay.
These two groups are fairly smaller, and in the right hands, with the right kind of choice of product, and if done hygienically and carefully, these can be very game-changing or life-changing for a number of people who will appreciate and enjoy the value a lot.
Okay.
Botulinum, I think, is fairly commonplace. So, let's say if a very inexperienced injector injects you somewhere here, then you can have a droop for about 4 to 3 months, 4 months max. Usually, it tends to go away
Okay.
because that is the whole problem, that people don't like that Botox is temporary.
Right.
It does go away, so you don't have to worry as much. That said, it entirely depends upon patient selection, careful selection by whoever is injecting, and the experience of the injector.
Okay.